former Maid finally breaks silence on Hitler. Imagine working for one of the worst bad guys in history and not knowing how evil he truly was. That's what happened to Elizabeth Kalhammer. She worked as a maid at Adolf Hitler's mountain home during World War II, when many people didn't fully understand what he was doing. Now, at 100 years old, Elizabeth is sharing her memories about life in Hitler's private home. Her story gives us a rare look at the daily life of one of history's most hated men. Was Hitler nice to her? Did he think he was a good person? Or did he treat her like everyone else? Just another worker in his terrible plan? Her shocking answers might change what you thought you knew about this infamous leader. Fun fact: Hitler's mountain retreat was called the Berghof, and it was located in the Bavarian Alps. The name Berghof simply means mountain farm in German. Before telling you more interesting facts about Hitler, I would love to see your thumb on the subscribe button. Haha. Young Maid in a scary world. Elizabeth was just a teenager when she started working at the Berghof. While the world was suffering through World War II, she was cleaning floors and making meals for the man causing it all. She had no idea about the horrible things happening outside those mountain walls. As she did her daily work, Elizabeth began to notice strange things about life at the Berghof. She saw Hitler disappear into his office for hours, his girlfriend Eva Braun staying in the background, and other workers whispering to each other. It was a place full of secrets where nothing was as it seemed. Even though it was tense and scary, Elizabeth became part of this world, one small piece in the machine that kept Hitler's evil plans running. Fun fact: despite his terrible actions, Hitler was known to be extremely kind to his staff and was particularly fond of his German Shepherd dog named Blondie. This strange contrast shows how complex and disturbing his personality truly was. How evil begins. Hitler wasn't born evil. His early life was filled with rejection and hardship, which helps explain, but never excuse, how he became so cruel later on. Born in 1889 in Austria, Hitler had a strict, mean father who didn't support his dream to become an artist. After being rejected twice from art school, Hitler lived homeless and poor in Vienna. During this time, he started developing his extreme ideas about race and nationalism. His anger at being unsuccessful, combined with these hateful views, created the foundation for his future terrible actions. His deep hatred toward Jewish people and anyone he thought was less than only grew stronger over time. Fun fact: many historians believe that if Hitler had been accepted to art school, world history might have been completely different. Some of his paintings still exist today and show he had some talent, but not enough for the prestigious Vienna Academy of Fine Arts. Behind closed doors. As a maid at the Berghof, Elizabeth had a special view of Hitler's private life, which was full of contradictions. Sometimes he was charming and could make people love and follow him. Other times, he was cruel and willing to do anything to get what he wanted. Elizabeth remembers how Hitler would suddenly burst into angry fits, screaming at his staff and advisors. Then he would use his charm to manipulate people around him. She also saw Hitler's health getting worse as time went on. He became more dependent on medications and treatments that his personal doctor gave him. Looking back on her experiences, Elizabeth still struggles to understand Hitler's complicated personality and how he could make people both love and fear him at the same time. Fun fact: Hitler was a vegetarian and rarely drank alcohol. He was obsessed with his health and took up to 28 different medications daily toward the end of the war, including methamphetamines, which likely affected his mental state and decision-making. The woman behind Hitler. One of the most interesting parts of Elizabeth's story is about Eva Braun, Hitler's longtime girlfriend and eventual wife. Elizabeth remembers how Eva would often try to help the staff when Hitler got angry at them. However, Elizabeth also believes Eva knew about the terrible crimes being committed by the Nazis. As Elizabeth thinks about Eva's role, she's still trying to make sense of this complicated woman who was both a victim and supporter of the Nazi regime. Eva's story reminds us that women were also involved in the Nazi system, some as victims, others as willing participants. Fun fact: Eva Braun attempted suicide twice early in her relationship with Hitler, possibly to get his attention as he was often distant and preoccupied with political affairs. Despite being together for over 14 years, Hitler kept their relationship secret from the public until they married just before their joint suicide. The final days. As the war continued, Elisabeth's life at the Berghof became more strange and disturbing. She remembers high-ranking Nazi officials always being there, endless meetings, and a feeling of fear hanging over everyone. Hitler's behavior became more unpredictable and unstable. He isolated himself more and more from the outside world. When Allied forces got closer to Germany, Elisabeth knew the end was coming. She made plans to escape. In April 1945, as American troops approached the Berghof, Elisabeth ran away, escaping into the nearby woods and eventually reaching safety. Looking back now, Elisabeth still deals with the trauma of what she saw and how it has shaped her entire life and view of the world. Fun fact: in the final days of the war, Hitler ordered the Berghof to be bombed to prevent it from falling into enemy hands. Today, only the foundation and underground bunkers remain, with a documentation center nearby to educate visitors about the horrors of the Nazi regime. Why her story matters. Today, Elisabeth's memories serve as an important reminder of why we must learn from history and face the dark side of human nature. As one of the few people still alive who saw the inner workings of the Nazi regime firsthand, Elisabeth gives us a unique perspective on how ordinary people can become part of extraordinary evil. Her story shows why empathy and understanding are important to break down barriers between people and prevent similar horrors from happening again. Despite all the terrible things she experienced, Elisabeth's story is also about hope. She remembers small acts of kindness and resistance that she and others did, even when surrounded by evil and danger. She recalls how they would secretly listen to enemy radio or share forbidden news with each other. These small acts of bravery might have seemed tiny at the time, but they helped Elisabeth and others survive the darkest times. Fun fact: after the war, many who worked at Hitler's private residences were interrogated by Allied forces looking for information about Nazi leadership and possible hiding places of other high-ranking officials who had escaped. Learning from the past. As we think about Elisabeth's story, we are reminded of the dangers of extreme ideas, nationalism, and hatred of those who are different, and how these beliefs can be used to justify violence. We're also reminded of the importance of compassion and understanding in breaking down the walls that separate us from others. Elisabeth Kalhammer's memories are a powerful and haunting reminder of the horrors of the Holocaust and why we must learn from the past. Her experiences at Hitler's private home give us a rare glimpse into the daily life of one of history's most notorious leaders. Her legacy reminds us why we must preserve these memories and make sure the experiences of those who lived through the Holocaust are never forgotten. Elisabeth's story will continue to haunt and inspire us, showing why it's so important to learn from history and build a more just and caring world. Fun fact: Elisabeth Kalhammer kept her past secret for decades after the war, fearing judgment and repercussions. Like many who worked in proximity to Nazi leadership, she faced the difficult task of explaining her role in a regime that committed unspeakable atrocities, even though she was just a young domestic worker at the time.